BBC News.
You're with Outlook, taking you on a tour of the world, one extraordinary story at a time. I'm Emily Webb. Our next story from Vietnam is about the unexpected consequences of a very famous TV show. As it states in the opening line of Pride and Prejudice, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. This is the basic premise of the reality television programme The Bachelor. A giant mansion, lavish dates, and at the centre of it all, a dashing and eligible man and a group of women competing for his attention. Each week, a few of the women are selected for group dates, and some might even be chosen for an individual date. Then a cliffhanger in each episode, something called a rose ceremony, where only the women he wants to keep dating receive a rose. Those who don't must pack their bags and leave the mansion. The show has been criticised as being overdramatic and at times sexist, but there's no denying its popularity. It's a concept born in the United States, but the franchise has spread as far as Korea, Australia and Vietnam.
Và bây giờ, The Bachelor sẽ đến Việt Nam.
This year, The Bachelor Vietnam got a lot of attention not just in its home country, but around the world. Why? Well, we'll be telling you that story through two of its contestants. The show has gone to air now, and so we spoke to Truc Nhu and Minh Thu in Ho Chi Minh City. The line wasn't great, and the room was pretty noisy. We could hear a baby, cars, and even a rooster at one point. Truc Nhu is a stunt woman and Minh Thu is a student, so I wanted to know why they wanted to get on the show.
Tại vì thứ nhất là em đang đọc Truc Nhu. At that time, I was single, and when I saw the promotion for the program that said they provided a perfect man, that he was good in all aspects, I couldn't believe in real life there would be such a good man. So that's why I wanted to see if it was true. Như thế nào?
And what about you, Minh Thu?
Somebody introduced me to the show, and after that, I also watched some episodes done in foreign countries. I got so excited watching them, so I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to try when the show comes to Vietnam.
So a lot of the filming was taking place in this very beautiful mansion. Can you describe it to me, Truc Nhu?
Nó đẹp. It was a very, very big, beautiful resort. It was also very romantic and beautiful in every way. The contestants stayed in a hotel that was also very beautiful.
And what were your first impressions of The Bachelor?
I was extremely excited. I was very thrilled. Before I met him, I was thrilled already. But when it really happened, I felt like it was like a Cinderella story. The first night, there was a lot of beautiful girls wearing gowns in the ballroom waiting for the Prince Charming to dance with them. But because I was so thrilled when he came to speak to me, I forgot all the words I had prepared. So I couldn't even say anything. As with any relationship, you can have a crush at first sight. But from my first impression, he didn't have that instant spark with me.
So part of the show is that a lot of the women share rooms. So you two were supposed to be sharing a room together. Tell me, Minh Thu, about your first meeting with Truc Nhu.
My first impression when I met her was that she was lovable and a cute girl.
Tell me, Truc Nhu, about that first meeting from your perspective and what your first impressions were of Minh Thu.
I hated her. My first impression was that I hated her, seriously. Why? Well, we actually met during the casting. Then I asked her a question, but she didn't answer me. She just ignored me, so I didn't like her anymore. But then after that, we were assigned to the same room. I felt annoyed because I thought maybe the producers of the show realized that I hated her, and they were putting us in the same room to create drama for the show.
So when Minh Thu arrived at the door, is it true that you made her wait?
Đúng là chị. Chính xác luôn.
Yes, yes, it's true.
Why?
Vì
Because I didn't like her. I saw her at the door and it seemed to me that she thought she was the boss of me, sort of a princess type. So I thought, okay, I'm going to treat you like a housekeeper.
housekeeping mà muốn dọn phòng vậy đó.
Housekeepers need to knock the door 3 times before they can come into the room. So I waited for 3 knocks.
Minh Thu, all of this was happening, but you say that you still thought that Truc Nhu was really lovely.
Không biết nhưng mà tại vì mọi người hay.
I thought it was alright because when people meet me, they already think I'm a different person to who I am. When they spend time with me and talk with me, they see a different person in me, and then they will think I'm a lovable girl.
So is that what happened, Truc Nhu? How did your opinion of Minh Thu start to change as you got to know her?
Chính xác luôn á chị. Là ban đầu em ghét.
Yeah, so it's true. I hated her at the very beginning, but just after one day living together, I came to like her a lot.
Nhưng mà giờ ở chung rồi mới biết.
So let's talk about the Bachelor himself. He was 33-year-old Quoc Jung, a French-Vietnamese chief operating officer of a furniture company. Episode 2 kicked off with a date for one of the other women. It was a romantic beach picnic and the Bachelor arrived Bond-style on a jet ski from the sea. He's greeted by a lot of screaming, and if you watch the show, you will quickly learn that the word sexy is also used in Vietnamese.
Thấy anh Trung hẹn hò với một cô gái khác mà còn sexy nữa.
Then a group of women, including Truc Nhu, go on a group date. The idea behind group dates is to compete for the affection of the Bachelor. Producers of the programme decide that the best way to decide this is through a game of beach volleyball.
Chúc mừng đội bạn, các bạn lại là đội chiến.
Truc Nhu wasn't on the winning team. Then came the rose ceremony, where the Bachelor would decide who would stay and who wouldn't. It was dramatic, as Truc Nhu remembers.
Họ giống ôm.
At the very end of the episode, almost everyone received a rose except for me and a few other contestants. But I thought, okay, maybe it's time for me to leave. But then I turned around and looked at Minh Thu's face. She had a strange emotion, like she wanted to cry. And her eyes were full of tears. I felt that it was a bit strange because we were contestants, rivals to each other. So if I was going to leave, then it would be good for her then.
And how were you feeling in that moment, Minh Thu?
Lúc đó em cảm thấy.
I didn't really know why I was feeling like that. I thought maybe because we just moved into the same room together and she was lovely, so I like making friends with her. And I thought that if she had to leave, I would have to say goodbye to my close friend.
Em phải có cảm xúc như vậy.
The following episode, and things weren't looking good for Truc Nhu again. There was a rumour that she was going to be eliminated.
I was in the dressing room having my makeup done before the show. So when Truc Nhu came into the room and told me the rumor, I said, "Is that true? Is that true?" And then immediately I cried. My feeling was stronger than the previous week.
And when your feeling was stronger, did you start to question why that was?
Actually, I asked myself many times, why do I have this feeling? And I couldn't explain why.
At this point, Truc Nhu, are you still thinking, I'm in this for the Bachelor, I still want to win this competition?
Thật ra thì
Yes, at that time I didn't want to give up on winning the Bachelor's heart. At that time I hadn't had much of a chance to speak with the Bachelor yet.
When the ceremony arrived, the question on everybody's lips was, would Truc Nhu be going home? But then 2 syllables slipped from the Bachelor's mouth.
Chúc Như.
Truc Nhu would stay.
dạ từ lúc mà em cảm thấy có.
After 2 days, we were already shooting episode 4. It was in episode 4 that I decided that if Truc Nhu had to leave, I would leave too. If she wasn't in the show anymore, then I didn't want to continue. I realized what I had with Truc Nhu was more than a friendship.
Và hãy thương Truc Như.
The realization was that Minh Thu wasn't falling in love with the Bachelor, she was falling in love with Truc Nhu. But being gay in Vietnam is far from widely accepted. While it's not illegal, Vietnam is a conservative country where many homosexual people hide their sexuality. And Minh Thu wasn't ready to reveal her feelings. Truc Nhu, how are you feeling about Minh Thu during this period?
Actually, during that time, I got a very strong feeling toward Minh Thu. I was pretty sure I didn't have a chance with the Bachelor. But to me, it wasn't important. I just felt I had a special feeling toward Minh Thu. I felt I had found my soulmate. It's even stronger than love. But I was nervous. I had lots of fears. I felt Minh Thu had the same fears.
So Minh Thu, you told me that you had realised that if Truc Nhu wasn't going to be in the competition, you didn't want to be in the competition either. Tell me what happened at the ceremony when somebody was going to be eliminated in episode 5.
Before the show, I knew already that I would be eliminated. The Bachelor had come to talk with me before that, and he said that there were some sort of mismatching between me and him. He said that we couldn't go further. So, in the show, when it was announced that me and another contestant wouldn't receive a rose and were being eliminated, we were given a chance to say some last words on the program. I stood there for a long time. I didn't say anything. Then I turned and saw Truc Nhu and thought, I don't want to lose the one I love.
So Minh Thu gathered her courage and spoke to the Bachelor.
I went into this competition to find love. I found that love for myself. But it isn't you, it's someone else.
At this moment, Minh Thu, crying, turns around and runs to Truc Nhu, who is standing behind her.
Come home with me, come home with me.
Truc Nhu agrees to leave the ceremony with Minh Thu, and she approaches the Bachelor to say goodbye.
I know you'll find someone who really loves you, who understands you, takes care of you, who can look at you from afar and know how you're feeling.
Before the show was filmed, I thought that if I expose my real feelings, I will have to face reality. The reactions of my friends, family, society is not easy. Being gay is a taboo. But then, at that time, I couldn't hold it inside myself anymore. After that, I was stunned. I couldn't believe I could say it aloud in front of people.
Truc Nhu did actually end up staying on the show for 2 more episodes as she worked out how she felt. But when she realised she did feel the same way, she left the programme and the luxury mansion. So tell me how you felt when you did eventually leave the show and you arrived at the airport and Minh Thu was waiting for you.
Cười tít mắt không nói nên lời.
When I saw Minh Thu at the airport, I felt so relieved. I thought that person really did love me. I smiled a lot and I couldn't stop smiling.
I was so happy. I was overjoyed. I was over the moon. I just ran towards her and hugged her.
Lại ôm xong cái mà chạy qua một bên cái mà cười.
Obviously this had all been happening, but the show hadn't gone out on air yet. People didn't know about this and your families didn't know either. Were you worried, Minh Thu, about what your family's reaction might be?
Dạ, cái này tại vì...
So true. At that time, my family didn't know the story yet. I knew that my mother wouldn't agree with it. I asked her whether she wants me to have my happiness, if she wanted her daughter to be happy, or does she just want me to have a family like a traditional way in Vietnam. After I said that, she approved.
Then that episode of the rose ceremony and Minh Thu's declaration was shown on television in Vietnam.
At the very beginning, when the show went to air, we got some serious bad comments. People said it was a scandal and it was staged to draw attention to the show. They didn't believe that we, as women, could fall for each other. We felt so upset about it. And also we felt scared that people on the street would notice that we were in a same-sex relationship. But after only one day, the story went viral all over the world.
And a story that's been a huge talking point in Vietnam.
This was a public declaration that Minh Thu wanted to do.
But a moment like this has never happened during a rose ceremony.
The show is The Bachelor.
But instead had fallen in love with another female contestant. Dun, dun, dun.
We started to get lots of positive comments from Vietnamese people and the international audience. Those comments encouraged us to stand up for our real love. We didn't care about the taboo anymore.
You've now moved in together. How is it going, Minh Thu?
It's a very special feeling. Before we moved in together, we were always finding an excuse to meet each other. But when we moved in together, we thought it might overcome this feeling of missing each other. But to be very honest, when I even go to school for a few hours, we miss each other.
Truc Nhu, you told me about how negative your first impressions were of Minh Thu. How differently do you think about her now?
I love her much more. Day by day, I love her more and more. She's very cheerful and bubbly. She talks a lot and she teases me as well. She makes me happy all the time.
And what do you hope people take from your story?
I really hope that people would accept that our feeling was true love and not a staged scandal. I hope that when people talk about us, they would talk about a story of two people finding true love.
And even though I don't speak Vietnamese, it's very obvious how in love Minh Thu and Truc Nhu are. They laughed throughout our interview.
We are sitting next to each other. We are holding hands, and when we talk with you, we recall a lot of the sweet memories, and we laugh a lot, and we also hug, and sometimes we kiss each other.
Minh Thu and Truc Nhu speaking to me from Ho Chi Minh City.